Greg,
Sure.
what happens when I reformat this volume?
When you reformat, basically, it creates a new super block right over the top of the old one, in most cases.
So that's gone. We don't get that back.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to say there was a partition that lived from here to here, and it's NTFS, and we just lost that information.
And then it creates a new master file table, usually pretty small, right smack dab over the other one.
But a lot of the file records from the previous regime might be here.
Mm-hmm. And again, if you were to basically take some off-the-shelf software, sometimes it's only going to look at the active MFT, and it's not going to look for file records elsewhere on the disk.
And if you're watching this video, it's probably because that didn't work, and there's a lot of reasons for that.
Mm-hmm.
So determining the old regime's file system geometry is pretty darn tricky. You have to hope it's very, very similar to the current file system geometry.
Mm-hmm.
And if a cluster size changed,
Yeah.
or partition type changed, or
there's a lot of variables here, and to make the software easy to use, they have to make some assumptions.
And this $MFT or file table or data dictionary is often fragmented.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be chunks of it out here, and chunks of it over here, and chunks of it over here. And the job of the, in our case, an investigator or a computer scientist, the job is to figure out what the previous regime's file system geometry was. Oh, it started here at sector 2048, not sector 63, which the dumb software figured out. But our people can say, oh, listen, we see evidence that this is where the file system starts.
Why is the start important?
Well, what we find is that these master file table entries are relative. So they don't say
exactly. Mm-hmm.
They don't say I live at sector
Absolute
17 million.
addresses on the disk. They don't use absolute addressing.
Yeah, they're addressed. If this says 17 million, I live at sector or cluster 17 million. It's talking about from here.
From the start of the file system.
Right.
Start of block 0.
It has no concepts. These individual files have no concept of the greater universe outside this disk. They don't know if they're running on a RAID 5. They don't know if they're running on a single disk. They don't know if they're on a thumbstick. Mm-hmm. They've got no concept of any of this. So if you guess wrong, you find all the file definitions, and this is a very common call we get. Yeah, my software ran and it recovered all kinds of files, but none of them work. And a lot of times, that's because the software you ran guessed the wrong geometry. Or it might know the start of it, but it doesn't pick up on the fact that the cluster size changed.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to find the relative start of the maybe multiple partitions. We have to scan that new geometry for all the chunks that we find that sometimes the old software, it didn't know to scan the whole disk to go way, way down here for a big chunk of data that's important to you. And then ultimately, we need to use this data dictionary information to find the individual files. And then we take things one step further, and we actually, for the most part, can look at the files themselves and see if they make sense. Mm-hmm. Do they have binary headers that make sense? Do they have binary footers that make sense? And we roll all that up, and we'll actually tell our clients, like, these files work, and these files almost certainly don't. So that, we don't hand you back 17 million files and
you can make a well-informed decision whether or not to basically purchase the recovery.
Well, and when you do decide to purchase the recovery, because you will, you won't have to waste a whole lot of your life screwing around
sifting through what works
garbage
and what doesn't
data
work.
To see, yeah, exactly.
If it doesn't work, we'll give it to you anyway. We've been wrong before, but we'll separate it.
It'll be in like a folder called "This data is probably garbage," or I think the folder is called "bad."
Yeah, or it's incomplete or not valid. There'll be some easy. Yeah. This is good. This is bad. This stuff maybe works, partially works. This is damaged, but it'll work. It's a video that'll be choppy, but it'll play.
And if there's one video that you're after because you're a wedding photographer or videographer, and boy, I really need the Joneses' wedding, like we will actually have a human lay eyes on it, and
we can render contact sheets for photographers, or your family photos. Basically, see a thumbnail of every image we've recovered.
Or if you're an accountant and you're after the QuickBooks file for 3 or 4 companies that hadn't been backed up, we will test those as well. So we're always here to help and make sure that you make a
well-informed decision. You know exactly what you're going to get. There's no surprises when you give us a credit card.
All right, so that's kind of reformatting.
Feel free to give us a call. One of our client advisors would be happy to talk about your specific situation and figure out how we can best help you.